This is the story of IcelandKnight. Did you ever have an experience that you can't really tell anyone about? Other people wouldn't understand it. Well, that's what happened to me. Now, personally, I find people telling me their dreams rather boring. So I'm going to ask you to bear with me for a moment, because without the dream foretelling what was going to happen, the whole thing wouldn't make much sense, but it doesn't make any sense anyway, so never mind that. I was asleep and having a dream. Did you ever dream that you see yourself asleep? Well, that's what happened. In my dream, I saw myself sleeping, and I was awoken by snoring. It wasn't my snoring, because I was awake by that time. So I turned around and there's this girl in the bed. So I thought to myself, wow, I must have got lucky last night. But it was a dream, right? But I didn't know it was a dream. Just like when you are in your dream, you think it's all real. And you make sort of decisions based on reality, sort of thing. You don't really act like it's a dream. The same thing with me. There's this girl sleeping next to me, so I think to myself, well, I must have got lucky last night, and here she is, sleeping, and she was quite cute. But then I looked around. Wow, hey, this isn't even my place. So this must be her home. So I had planned that day to go on a hiking trip. In reality, I was going to go on a hiking trip that very day. So in the dream, I realized, hey, I'm at somebody else's place. I need to get back to my place. That's where my backpack is. So I got dressed and just let her sleep in peace and slipped out her front door. I'd probably call her later in the day when she slept off whatever she had been drinking. But then I start walking towards my house. Now, my house is by the sea, and I always find it really cool walking by the ocean. The winds and the sea, and it's all so amazing. There's old houses on the right-hand side of me, old white walled houses, and most of them have like red roofs or green roofs, things like that. And some of these places are quite fancy because quite a lot of rich people live by the sea. Then you turn left into my road, and my road it veers along the sea, sort of thing, and soon enough I'm at my place. And of course, since it's all a dream, I open the door and there's my backpack, and I'm ready to go, really. There was no need to do anything. I had already packed everything the day before. In reality, I had done that, so it came into the dream as being a fact. So I just took my backpack, threw it on my back, and headed down the road on my merry way. I walked past bus stops, and before I knew it, without taking a bus or anything because it was a dream, I was out in the country, and the huge mountains all over the place with white snow on the top, white snow-capped mountains, and I really felt good, and I reached out my hands because this is what it was all about. amazing to be witnessing this great spectacle that had been laid out before me, the mountains and stuff. And of course, since it was a dream, I had only to walk a little space, and I was at the geysers, the hot springs, and sure enough, there was one erupting just to probably please me in the dream. In reality, the waterfall, the golden waterfall, is way, from the hot springs. But in the dream, you just take a little walk, and by the time you're there, you don't even know, you're just there. And just a few paces away, there's the golden waterfall, the huge waterfall. I like to stop and listen. It's such a strong current and that destructive force of the water. Then I made my way to the black beaches. There are these black beaches, and there's some rocks that have fallen from the cliffs into the sea. And there's folklore that says that these were actually trolls, and they had been like wading around or swimming from the mainland or something. And they had been caught out by the sun, and when the sun's rays hit a troll, it becomes stone. It turns to stone. These rock formations could be figures. You can if you want to see the figures, you probably can't see, the troll faces and stuff. Then there are the moonscape plateaus, and they reach on and on. It's all black sand, and it has rocks on it, but very weathered because the sand blasting that these rocks get is incredible. Then I was walking around, found a grassy hill. It was a grass hill a bit further on, and I noticed on the ground there was a mask. So I think to myself, who left a mask here? There's this Halloween mask or like a masquerade mask. And I picked it up, and you instinctively just want to try it on. Don't ask me why, but I put it on, and suddenly there came a sound, a high-pitched squealing sound. It was terrible. I threw it down, and it's weird, and I ran from the mask, and it dropped on the ground, and I lost my hat on the way as well. And I was totally out of breath and running and everything, but I had to go back for my hat. So I went for my hat, and that took me halfway to the mask anyway. So I was thinking, what is that mask all about? So I cautiously approached it, and it looked like, just a normal mask. So I reached out for it, and when I touched it, nothing happened. It was only when you put it on, it makes that scary sound. So then I looked around, and there was no owner of this mask, and I couldn't even remember where I was going. I was so shook up by the experience, and how I can't understand how it made that sound. I examined the mask thoroughly, and there were no speakers or headphones or anything, but still it had made that sound. And I just thought to myself, why did it make that sound? It's so weird. And I just had to try it again, right? Yeah, I know, but it was a dream, okay. And so I put the mask on again, and it was a terrible sound. There was that sound again. It was high-pitched sound. It was terrible. But where was that sound coming from? I looked around, and the sound seemed to fade into a low hum. It was very strange. And everything looked like, like it was super sharp. Like I was looking through, like a pair of brown sunglasses or some sort of ultra vision. But I could hear the faint sound of the humming sound, but it was fading, and the look and the world and the world looked so different. Suddenly there was a sound.
Hey, you.
What? Who said that?
I did. Up here.
And I looked around, and there was nobody there on either side of me, yet I could hear it so clearly. But I looked up on the hill, and there was a girl standing there.
I'm up here. Come on up.
What? I can hear you from here like you were next to me.
So, are you the knight?
She couldn't even hear me up the hill, so I decided to walk towards her.
I'm up here. Come on.
Hold on, I'm coming. When I approached her, I asked her, how do you do that?
Yes.
Talk so I can hear you so clearly when you're so far away.
Oh, all elves can mind speak.
What? Elves?
Yes, elves. Now, come with me. We have been waiting for you.
And she started to walk away.
Now, come with me. First, we need to equip you.
Equip?
Yes, you seem to be unarmed. Not good.
And we walked on, past some hills, down some slopes, and she hardly said anything, and I just followed blindly without knowing really where we were going or anything.
Okay. We are here.
We stopped by a waterfall, but it's just a waterfall with a pool and water coming down.
Yes, but behind it is a cave.
She led the way past the waterfall into a cave. There was a cave behind the waterfall. I had never known about that. Not that I had ever been to this waterfall before at all, either. We entered a chamber where there was a whole pile of armor and weapons and stuff. And she said to me,
Okay, take whatever weapons or armor you want.
I mean, it was a dream. And there were all these swords, Viking helmets and army helmets and army clothes and breastplates and all kinds of things were there. I found a very cool sword, really sharp and quite light. She just stood there watching me as I, suited up. I found a Roman helmet and a Roman chest plate, and when I was ready, I threw my hat down in my backpack, and when I was suited up and ready, I said to her, okay, now what? She said,
Follow me.
so, where are we going now?
You will see.
And we walked on for a while until we came to a little mountain. It looked like a mountain, but in front of it, it had like a valley that was like in a dip, and there was a cave mouth, cave opening, and there were some creatures there, and they were cooking something. They were having a barbecue or something. And she said,
Okay, lie down here and
shh. I said, okay.
do you see those three?
She was referring to the three guys around the fire. I whispered to her, yes.
See the cave behind them?
Yes, I whispered to her.
Well, all my sisters are in them. You need to save them.
Now suddenly it dawned on me why she had made me put on this armor and choose weapons and stuff. I mean, these were some guys sitting around a fire, and I was a bit puzzled, and I said, me? Why must it be me? Where are the elven men? I asked her. To which she replied,
Do you see that pile near the fire? And on the stick over the fire? Those are our men.
what?
Keep your voice down.
She cautioned me. I was just so surprised. Were her elven men all killed by these three creatures?
Yes, elves consider themselves above violence, and they tried to reason with them with this conclusion.
I couldn't say anything. I just, damn. I replied, whispering. Then she explained to me.
They are unarmed, so you should be okay.
Really? I asked her.
Yes.
I looked towards the guys by the fire, and I felt kind of strange. And then she interrupted my thoughts.
I also have a sling if you need help.
She drew a sling from her sleeve, and she had some rocks in one hand. I said, no, I think I can take them. Thanks, though.
Okay.
This sword looked pretty formidable, and they didn't look very tough, or they didn't look like they had any weapons at all. No, I think I can take them, I said, overconfident.
Okay.
She replied. Then I guess it was just up to me. So I looked at her before going over the ridge and said, well, here I go. And then I approached the ridge. Now, in the dream, a strange thing happened. You know, like when you're dreaming, you sometimes feel like you're in a movie and you can just change the camera to another setting. Well, the camera seemed to pan over to these creatures who were roasting some elves by a fire. And one of the main creatures who was turning one of the elven bodies over the fire said to the other creatures in a sort of grunty voice, "You know." And another guy said, "What?" And the first guy said, "If something was to smell what we are cooking, there could be trouble." And that's when the camera was still with them, when I appeared over the ridge with a loud, savage warrior yell. Arr! I thought maybe I'd scare them away, with my savage war yell. And then I came running down into the dip in front of the cave, and the creatures rose to their feet. And I was screaming, "Ah! Ah!" Came running with my sword aloft, hoping that they'd just run away. But then the camera shifted to the main guy again, and he said to the other guys, "Let me handle this." And I came running closer and closer, and closer and closer, and these creatures seemed to be growing with each step that I took. And by the time I reached them, they were twice my size. All my sort of bravery, my war cry ended there. And I was standing in front of the main guy who had taken 2 paces, which was like, a few paces of mine. And suddenly, before I could do anything, pow! He hit me in the head with his foot, and everything went black. Now the camera zoomed away from me. The camera in the dream zoomed away from me, and I saw them laughing. And I saw myself lying down, that the helmet was off, I had dropped the sword, and the mask was loose. And suddenly one of the creatures picked me up. The main creature bent over me and picked me up. And as he carried me towards the fire, he said,
Forget the elf meat. This turkey is full.
And another replied,
Oh, yes.
and I couldn't see. I mean, now the camera zoomed away towards the elven lady, the elven lady who was obviously quite distressed over this whole situation. And so I didn't really see what they were doing to my body. But of course, like in any movie, I had distanced myself from the body of the person that they were really, I knew they were dismembering it. But as the camera zoomed in back to these three, they had actually put the bulk of the creature that I was, the guy's body, on the stick over the fire and had started turning it. And really, to my horror, I looked towards the pile of elven bodies and I saw the head of the guy I had been just moments before, staring lifelessly back at me. Just the head, with tattered remains of a neck on top of a pile of elven bodies, all killed. And it was just so horrible. I tore myself out of the dream.